morning, everybody. Thank you for joining my channel today. You wouldn't believe how much I'm asked to get on camera and demonstrate my cooking and my baking. I also have someone that I know really well that insists that she cannot make a cake. It is super simple, super easy. Just make sure you have your items measured and already ready to go. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started. The first thing you want to be sure of is that your oven is on and preheating. It should be at 325 generally for pound cake, but sometimes ovens cook faster, like mine, so I have it set at 315. Also, have your items already measured and room temperature. So in my bowl right now, I have butter and sugar. And I creamed that for a while, and then I scraped down the sides to make sure everything is well mixed and incorporated. And I do this a couple times throughout the creaming process. And you want to be sure that you do it for an ample amount of time until it's nice and fluffy and very, very pale yellow. If you're doing this by hand, it's a little harder and takes a little longer. But I have a KitchenAid mixer, so I just kind of put everything in there and keep it moving. So after I've scraped down the sides a couple times, this is how it should look. Nice and fluffy. And at this point, I'm going to start adding in my eggs. So my eggs are also room temperature. A trick is, if they're not, you can put hot water in a measuring cup and put your uncracked eggs in there so that they can warm up while you prep. I crack my eggs in a measuring cup so that I don't end up with shell in my cake. I mean, who wants to bite down on a piece of shell? And I'm a little clumsy. So I add the eggs in one at a time, and I make sure that they are well mixed before I move on. As you can see, it's super simple, just one at a time. And what you're going to do, just like we did before, you're going to make sure that it's well mixed. And then at some point, you want to scrape down those sides. You want to make sure everything is mixed. That is the key. Nobody wants cake that is just not right because it wasn't mixed well. So we're scraping down the sides here. And then after this, I will continue on adding in my eggs. I have this speed on pretty high as well. Probably just above the middle speed with this KitchenAid mixer. All right, adding in the last couple eggs here. You know, anybody can do this, seriously. It's about measurement and time. That's it. Although I do know people that say that they can cook but can't bake, especially when you don't follow a recipe generally. But trust me, if you measure it all out, you will not have a problem. Now is my flavoring is going in. You can use any kind of flavoring you like. Coconut, almond, whatever you like. I mix a couple flavorings here for my cake. And it's 1 teaspoon each of flavoring, and I do 2 flavorings. All right, so we're going to go back to mixing. And the next part is when we're going to start adding in our dry and our wet ingredients. Now, in my little bowl here, I have my flour, which is all-purpose flour. That's all I use. My salt and my baking soda, all in there together. And when you add in your wet and dry ingredients, you want to start and end with your dry. So this flour mix, I'm going to put in about 1/3. And I'm also going to mix on a very low speed until just combined. You do not want a tough cake because it was overmixed. So I'm mixing it on low. Even though it looks a little faster, I'm mixing it on low until it's just combined. And then what I'm going to do is take my wet ingredient. Oh, so here I'm showing you what it should look like. Just combined. There's a little flour on top from the mixing paddle, but that's fine. So then what I'm going to do is to get my wet ingredient and add in about half of that. And then I'm going to mix that on slow until just combined. You do not want to overly mix your cake. It will not come out well. See how fast that was? Now another third of my dry mixture. Mix until just combined. And then we're going to add in the rest of that wet ingredient. Never stopping the mixer, just until it's combined. Super easy. Super, super easy. And then finally, we're going to let that mix until just combined. And our last little bit of dry is going to go in. And that is it until just combined again. Do not overmix your cake. Trust me. I'd rather you slightly undermix than overmix at this point. This is the key. So now, of course, I'm going to scrape those sides down. Gotta continue to scrape the sides. Don't nobody want to bite into a clump of flour. Not if you want to be a master baker such as myself and have the grandma style pound cake. Scraping down those sides. Scraping down the paddle. Get all that off. And when we start this lax mix, after all of the dry and all of the wet are combined, I'm going to mix on medium for maybe 5 seconds. Again, you do not want an overmixed cake. It does something to the gluten that just messes up the whole texture of the cake. So on medium, 5 seconds, making sure there's no streaks of butter, flour, anything. And that's it. We're done. That's all you want to do. Do not overmix this cake. I cannot stress that enough. Now my pan is a Fat Daddy-O pan. That is what I prefer to use. It's an Angel Food cake pan, and Baker's Joy or any baking spray works. You're going to want to spray that pan pretty good because a pound cake can be beautiful, but it can be messed up if it sticks. So I spray quite a bit of that, making sure to get all the cracks, crevices in the bottom. Just spray that really, really, really good. Almost feel like you can't overspray, but you know what to do. And ultimately, we are going to fill this pan. And I just kind of go around and just scrape all of that off. Just scrape that off. Lord knows I love baking on a Sunday morning when there's nobody around. Usually I have my music on, child. It is just a beautiful feeling. And it doesn't take me long to mix a cake. It might take me 10 minutes. All right, so we're just going to spoon that in. And I kind of just scoop some in, and then I rotate the pan and continue getting that in there. Yep, just keep on putting it in. And ultimately, after this is done, I just kind of smooth the cake down in the pan, making sure it's even on all sides. And that is it. I'm going to pop this in my oven. Now for a pound cake, again, usually it's about 325. I have my oven set at 315 because I feel like my oven cooks a little quickly. And it takes about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half, depending on your oven. So I start checking my cake at about an hour and 15 minutes. I check to see if the edges are pulling from the side, and I put a skewer in to make sure that it's not wet inside. Maybe just a couple crumbs clinging.